Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People Story. It's a typical day in my quiet neighborhood, and I'm returning home from a quick trip to the store to grab some milk. Little did I know that a Karen with a serious case of road rage would cross my path, making this otherwise mundane errand turn into a nerve-wracking encounter. As I drive down the road, I adhere to the speed limit of 25 miles per hour, conscious of the nearby elementary school and children walking home. The rolling hills obstruct the view, making it essential to prioritize safety. However, this Karen behind me couldn't fathom the idea of patience. She honked incessantly, screaming out of her window for me to hurry up and stop driving so slowly. Fueled by spite, I decide to slow down even more, maintaining a speed of 20 miles per hour. Further down the road, my turn approaches, leading to my long driveway. I notice my child's soccer ball lying perilously close to the property's edge, prompting me to step out and retrieve it. Little did I expect the situation to escalate to unimaginable heights. Instead of passing me, the enraged Karen screeches to a halt in front of my property, unleashing a torrent of vitriol upon me. Karen, are you serious right now with this crap? You've kept me going slow for miles, and now you're going to act all tough? You're making me late. Me. It wasn't miles, and if being late means breaking the speed limit, then perhaps you should have left earlier. I suggest you continue on your way and leave me be. Maybe work on that road rage of yours while you're at it. Karen, I'm going to kill you, you cocky piece of crap. I'll show you what road rage really is. With her foot heavy on the gas pedal, she barrels her car onto my property, heading straight for me. Reacting quickly, I dive and roll out of harm's way, ensuring I maintain a position where she couldn't easily reverse or repeat her attack. Being a former military member, I instinctively reach for my sidearm, pointing it firmly at her. There's no room for negotiation. Me. Turn off the car now! Hands where I can see them! Karen. Oh my god, you're pulling a ducking gun on me? I'll get you arrested for this. Me. Get off my land this instant! Reluctantly, she retreats, reversing her car off my property. I holster my gun, keeping my hand close in case she makes another reckless move. In her desperate bid to regain control, Karen frantically dials the police, spewing lies about a crazy guy pulling a gun on her. Irritation washes over me as precious time ticks away. I have milk to refrigerate, after all. There's no way I'm letting this woman off the hook after she attempted to harm me with her vehicle. I patiently await the arrival of the police who, due to the false report of a firearm, approach me with caution. As they confiscate my weapon to ensure the safety of all parties involved, a glimmer of justice shines through. Officer. Sir, it's a serious offense to brandish a firearm and threaten someone. Me. Officer, I have surveillance cameras installed. I can provide the footage to support my claims. She drove onto my property with the intention of causing harm. I was justified in using my gun for self-defense. Once she left my property, I holstered my weapon and awaited your arrival. The officers, intrigued by the footage and recognizing my military background, quickly ascertained the validity of my actions. They inquire whether I wish to press charges against Karen for attempted assault, to which I firmly respond in the affirmative. With the evidence against her mounting, justice seems within reach. As the case progresses, additional surveillance footage from local businesses and the school emerges, capturing Karen's dangerous road rage incident. She's slapped with an extra charge for endangering others' lives in her reckless pursuit. In a shocking twist, during the court proceedings, Karen futilely argues that my legal ownership of a firearm is a crime, demanding my incarceration. Her delusions continue to unravel as she fails to grasp the consequences of attempting to harm someone with a vehicle. In the end, justice prevails. Karen is held accountable for her actions, and I can finally breathe a sigh of relief. The incident, while harrowing, serves as a reminder to remain vigilant against road-raged individuals. Should any others trespass on my property with malicious intent, they can rest assured that I won't hesitate to protect myself and my loved ones. The next one is a pro-revenge story. So, some time ago, not too long ago, I moved to a new city and needed a place to live. In this city, people usually planned 3-4 months in advance because waiting lists for apartments were that long at the time. However, I only had less than a month to find a place. I thought I was lucky to find a place with no waiting list. Red flag. Unfortunately, moving on short notice didn't give me much of a chance to do research. So I packed my bags and motorcycle into my truck and off we went. This place wasn't anything to write home about in terms of looks and was a bit older. However, it had a solid roof and was a decent size. Oh, and the major stuff worked too. plumbing, electricity, stove, etc. That's about where the benefits of living here ended. Shortly after moving in, the apartment management had a bunch of other new tenants move into multiple units. These new tenants weren't as keen on keeping the place quiet and nice. To top it off, there was very little lighting in the parking lot at night, which was constantly filled with trash from all the new tenants. The trash ranged from cigarette butts to glass bottle shards and other unknown items that you'd rather not know. To add insult to injury, we also had weekly vehicle music wars with glass bottle tossing as a sport across the parking lot. These music wars would go on into the late night hours, annoying many of the other neighbors and me, as we just wanted to sleep since we had work the next day. We complained to the apartment management, but they claimed they had no authority to stop the music wars. So we called our friendly neighborhood police station and asked them to stop by for a visit. Even though the city had a noise ordinance, the police deemed the area a nuisance and stated that the apartment management was responsible for stopping the music wars and picking up the trash. This annoyed us neighbors, but we kept going through the process. Unfortunately, 1 month things went too far. My motorcycle was knocked over multiple times, resulting in damage each time. The damage ranged from replacing mirrors and lights to repairing the plastics myself. Those cost too much to order brand new. The final time it was knocked over, engine work had to be done. Each time I went through the process and reported the incidents to both the police and apartment management. However, each time both the police and apartment management would say the problem was the responsibility of the other. I wrote a letter to the corporate office that owned the particular apartment complex, which was in another city. They asked for documents from the police to corroborate my claims, as their own apartment management representatives had no record of the issues. Never mind that I had filled out apartment forms and kept copies for each incident. I went to the local neighborhood police station to obtain a copy of each report, only to find out that they didn't make reports either. Apparently in this city, the police only completed a report if someone was injured since the property was deemed a nuisance property. Thankfully, I had some information handy, such as business cards, badge numbers, and names of officers who came out to take reports. I naturally explained this to the corporate management, but they took the stance that if no report exists, there were no issues. Well, okay then, I can fix that. I spent a couple of weeks doing research on local city and state laws. I also researched who enforces such laws in each situation. Additionally, I looked into what other places have done with nuisance property cases, including state and federal cases. Then, I prepared a nice letter, along with all of my supporting documentation, requesting that the issues be addressed within 10 business days, as required by local laws. I didn't just send the letter and supporting documentation to the corporate management, local apartment management, and the police station. I also sent a copy to a few other places, including a national apartment regulatory group, a state apartment regulatory group, non-government/private, a state government agency that also regulates apartments, and a couple of local news channels. And what was the outcome? Both the national and state apartment regulatory groups placed the apartment complex into a category requiring additional yearly visits. The state government agency conducted a surprise inspection and issued multiple violations for trash and inadequate lighting. The state government actually posted each of these violations on a very public website, which is in the top 10 list when doing a search on the apartment complex now. The police department leadership stepped up patrols, including adding on-site security to walk the property. The news channels didn't do much, but one did mention it briefly in another story they did on the local police department due to lack of community engagement. On the 10th day, I served a letter as instructed under local laws, holding the apartment in breach of the lease. The apartment management agreed that they now had sufficient documentation and let me out of the lease early without penalty. Not only did I get my deposit back, but some of my rent was also refunded at a later time due to the issues. The next one is a petty revenge story. After dealing with my husband, 29M, cheating on me and openly disrespecting me for 2 years, I, 23F, finally left him 4 months ago. He took no responsibility for the marital bills, so I had to sell the house and his truck by myself. When I left him, there was also a $400 phone bill in both of our names. I ended up paying the overdue bill a few months ago with the condition that my ex-husband gives me $200 for his share. He did give me $90, but then he laughed at me for expecting him to pay the remaining $110, stating that he doesn't owe me anything. About a week ago, I went to my current cell phone provider's store and discovered that I was paying twice as much as I should for phone service because I was still being charged $40/month for my ex-husband's phone. There is still over $800 owed on it. I found out that the remaining balance was not transferred when he switched his phone number to his own account because he failed to sign the necessary paperwork. I explained the situation to my ex-husband, and he agreed to join a conference call with me and customer service to have the remaining balance transferred to his own account. We were on the phone for approximately 20 minutes before my ex-husband told the customer service representative that he is already making payments on his own phone through his own account. He claimed to have no clue what I was talking about, and dismissed my inquiry as irrelevant before abruptly hanging up. So today I contacted customer service again, and learned that technically I own my ex-husband's phone since it is registered under my name. As a result, I filed a police report, reported the phone as stolen, and had it flagged and deactivated. The next one is an entitled people story. It all starts with the most infernal of devices at the gym, the treadmill. See, a friend of mine who is basically a professional gym rat told me, "Dude, bro guy, you gotta up your cardio game," and insists that a half hour on a treadmill every time I hit the gym would be a good plan. Life pro tip: when someone addresses you as dude, bro guy, seek a second opinion. I did the treadmill thing for a few weeks, and then I noticed that any time I went downhill, my knee was like, "Hey, you're an a-hole! Stop that!" which was a problem. As I have a dog who likes to go on walks, and where I live is not precisely known for its flat terrain, this was an issue. Then it got worse. Now it was downhills and stairs. Deadlifts, squats, leg press, no problem. Slight downhill, stairs? Oh no. Figuring knees aren't something one should ignore and hope it goes away with, I met with my doctor. She promptly referred me to physical therapy and not a knee brace like I was hoping. I met with the PT lady. She did an exam, said my quads are wonky and need work. I also discovered where my quads are. I was told not to do a lot with my legs at the gym other than bikes or swimming. All things being equal, I'll swim. I can swim. But I cannot swim well for very long. Turns out being out of breath and trying to get actual air in isn't as easy as it used to be, especially when some fat ass is splashing water all around. Until my lungs catch up with the rest of me, I've adopted what I call the fatty twirl. 4 or 5 strokes of freestyle, roll onto my back, and then kick with the legs until I've got air in me. Then roll back for more and pray I haven't gotten close enough to the edge of the pool to smack my hand into it. I assume I'm doing well because the PT lady hasn't given me that "I am disappointed" look, typically reserved for dentists when one has forgotten to floss. But that brings us to yesterday. Normally I go in the morning, mostly in the interests of avoiding shrieking children while I'm trying to do my thing, but work was nutty, and I went later than I usually do. There were clumps of teenagers doing I don't even know what, but they mostly just snickered to each other, and I minded my business. Now the dry part of my routine is done, and it's pool time. I wound up taking a lap lane next to a grandmother in her 50s, who was apparently trying to teach her grandkid, who was 10 tops, how to swim properly. I didn't hear a whole lot, seeing as when my ears weren't underwater. There was a fat guy splashing and making a bunch of noise, but I could tell the kid was splashing and coughing a lot, and this made Grandma upset. I didn't pay attention because it wasn't my business, and there were lifeguards. I just wanted to get my laps done. I was on an extended period of back float time trying to catch my breath when I was ambushed by a pool noodle. The noodle was applied directly to my face and not gently. While not painful, a noodle to the noggin is quite startling. I believe the first words out of my mouth were, "What the hell?" It was Grandma wielding the noodle, and she was giving me a very stern look. "Watch your language and stop doing that!" I asked Grandma what it was I was doing that led her to believe smacking me with a noodle was a good idea. Grandma informed me that I was swimming stupid, and her grandson wanted to copy me, so I needed to stop. After I confirmed that was, in fact, why I was assaulted with a noodle, I suggested that she might have better luck in the kids' part of the pool. You know, the one over there, far away from me. She said she was just fine here. I was the one causing the problem. I thanked her for her opinion and promptly resumed my swim. On my return trip, this woman stepped into my lane and grabbed my ankle. I don't know about the rest of you, but when I'm swimming and something grabs my leg, instant panic response. I immediately started flailing and kicking wildly, trying to free myself. Grandma got herself a nice adrenaline kick right on her forearm. I came up gasping for air and ready to start swinging. I am stopped by the soothing sounds of Grandma wailing about how I just broke her arm. Edit. Her arm was not, in fact, broken. She wound up with a nasty bruise, and that was it. I caught her with the top of my foot. Pro tip: the top of the foot is a bad place to land a kick with. Naturally, that's enough to get the lifeguards involved, none of whom were apparently paying attention before she started screaming. Two of them are lifting Grandma out of the pool and trying to examine her arm while she's still wailing and flailing. A third is giving me static about kicking another guest in the pool. Well, they started to until I pointed out where the kicking happened and where her grandson was. Poor kid had frozen in place with an expression of abject horror. Once she connects the dots, she realizes I'm not the problem. I tell her I'm going to go get changed, and then I'll identify myself to the front desk, because if I'm going to get interrogated, I'd prefer to be clothed. I did my thing, and by the time I'd showered and changed, there was a manager at the desk apologizing for what had gone on. They reviewed the tapes, and that woman's membership had been terminated, and they're very sorry, and please, please, please don't sue us. Best interrogation ever. The next one is an entitled parent story. Well, a while ago, someone here commented on the idea that my parents should sell a bunch of my brother's stuff. So I talked to my parents about how they could probably recoup some of their losses from the birthday rampage by selling a lot of my brother's stuff. I was surprised by how readily they agreed it was a good idea. I mean, it was like a light bulb moment for them. Then over the weekend, they had a big garage sale. They sold my brother's bike, his video game systems, everything. I went to help out with the sale and could hear my brother crying in his room. All of the video game systems he had were sold, and I mean there were a lot of them. He had a GameCube, a Wii, a 3DS, a Switch, PS2, PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and a ton of games for them all. And they sold all of them. I was pretty tempted to buy something from the sale myself, but I knew if my brother were to be made aware that I had something he used to own, who knows what he might do. So I held back. The bike alone went for $30. They also sold his TV, his RC cars, his drone, and pretty much anything else electronic he owned. They are in the process of selling his gaming PC online now as well. There's a cheap laptop too, but it was mainly used for school, and he was denied access to it for anything else. My parents told me that my brother's room had been stripped of everything but the essentials. While I was visiting during the sale, my brother walked out of his room once, saw me, and then ran back into his room crying loudly. I know fake crying from him when I hear it, and it was as fake as it gets. My parents know this too, and have not fallen for his game. I asked them if he was going to be sent to therapy, and they said they really have no choice but to do that. And they fully admitted this was all their fault for enabling him for so long. I could have rubbed it in their faces, but I think the look they saw on my face was enough that they understood. For the past several years, they'd been in progressively worse and worse denial about their bad parenting. Friends and family have been telling them for a long time now that they went way too far spoiling my brother, and that not only would it come back to them one day, but it would also mean that my brother may be incapable of functioning as an adult. And if that's the case, he'd expect someone to provide for his every need forever, and I would not become his caretaker when they become too old. My brother hadn't shown much improvement over the next few weeks. He was still being a brat, fake crying, getting into more trouble, and even stole another kid's cell phone at school. He was caught playing on it in his closet, and my parents had to return it to the school to find out who it belonged to. Last week I had an idea and suggested a family intervention. My parents were hesitant when I brought it up, but they reluctantly agreed to it. I'm sure their hesitation was because an intervention would put them on the spot along with my brother. Then on the next possible day, all close family and some friends could gather at my parents' house. We formed a circle of chairs in the living room, initially without my brother in the room. My aunt spoke first, and oh boy did she let them have it. She'd written an entire speech that we all silently listened to. My parents tried to interject from time to time, but were silenced. When it came to be my turn to speak, I also read a speech I composed. Basically, repeating everything I've told on Reddit thus far and plenty more. My grandparents went next, and it just sort of followed down the line from there. My mother was in tears, and my father just held her. They both apologized to me heavily and said they were terrible parents, and that they ruined my childhood. I'll never get that back. My aunt loudly stated that it should not have come to this for them to realize their own hypocrisy, and from now on, they needed to do better, not only for my sake, but especially for the sake of my brother so he can grow up normal. My brother was brought into the room next, and he was seated away from my parents because my mother would have an urge to coddle him when he was upset. It didn't take long for the family to lay into my brother. He tried fighting us a lot, But when excuses like, if only they just let me have my way, were about all he could say, we all let him have it about how that's not how the world works. He tried getting help from our mother, but she refused to look at him. He started huffing and acting like he was hyperventilating, then intentionally fell to the floor. It's not the first time he's done this. My aunt just told him to stop milking it and get up. He screamed at her that we were all ruining his life, and he wishes we were all dead. My parents were horrified. My brother refused to get up off the floor and kept breathing heavily to pretend to have some sort of attack. So everyone just left him lying there while they each said their piece about why they were there to him. He screamed randomly a few times, but didn't move from where he'd laid down. Eventually, everyone started leaving, and my parents had to actually drag my brother back to his room because he refused to get up off the floor. He's not used to people having no sympathy for him, especially from our parents. This is going to be a long uphill battle. My aunt has offered to chip in for therapy, and my parents have taken her up on it. Let's hope therapy does my brother some good. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.